Hey everyone, Tom Fleming here. And if Marvel cards are your thing, then you've come to the right place with the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ian Taylor, and welcome to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast, brought to you by the Marvel Cards Fan Collective. You can find our two groups on Facebook, details of which are at the end of this podcast, so come check us out. With me is my co-pilot in all things Marvel cards, the crazy nights that Kiss warned you about, only in human form, Norrin Rad.
Hi, everybody. Hey, sorry, that one took me back a little bit. That was pretty great. Okay.
There's a nostalgia hit for all of those who were either alive or not too on drugs to remember the 80s. So,
yeah, I was born smack in the middle, so
yeah.
I don't.
You're a young whippersnapper. How you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Good to see you.
Good
to be
Good
talking.
To see you too,
Good to be talking. We had some great feedback. I'm going to jump straight in if that's okay. On last week's episode, we had some cracking feedback, even though it was effectively just an hour and a half of us moaning about stuff. But I don't think we were moaning. But I think I'm probably being unfair. But strangely enough, I was listening back to it, and I was kind of thinking, did we sound low energy? And I don't think we were. We were just chilled because it was a Sunday.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it is today.
That's right.
Yeah, it was a rather nice Sunday. So no, it was cool. It was cool. We enjoyed it. But we had some good feedback, which was good. Kevin St. Jack, whose question we answered, but then put it after the end credits, if you like, left us a really good recommendation. So I guess we're kind of into the podcast mailbag segment of the show.
Mailbag.
And the only reason I do that is because still no one has sent us any jingles. No,
people are lacking. I don't know what's going on here.
I don't know. We've not got any messages either. Anchor.fm/MCCP. And, just leave us a message, guys. But anyway, they're kind of leaving us messages in their own way. So Kevin St. Jack put a great recommendation on our page. If you want to listen about Marvel trading cards, then you found the place, which I think was really sweet. Thank you very much for that, Kevin.
That's really awesome.
And Michael Munshaw, friend of the podcast, good evening, sir. Left a really nice comment on our post last week. Thanks so much for the shout out to us hardworking sketch card artists. It's nice to hear feedback. Nice to hear. Would help if I could actually talk. It's nice to hear feedback on what collectors look for and want, which I thought was really, really nice of you. So thank you, Michael. Which I actually really like the idea of that. The idea that the artists and creators that we talk about are also kind of the audience listening and kind of learning stuff and hearing about, the community and the people that, send us in questions. I thought that was quite an interesting angle. So,
well, it's funny too, because I had a conversation with Tom Fleming,
which leads us, which is a nice segue.
No, which I don't want to push or shove into that segue yet. Well, we don't have to.
Okay. Well, we can do. Because I'm going to circle back to listener comments because it's kind of the main thing that I thought we could talk about this week. So, interesting segue there, Norrin. What did you do this week?
I don't know. I might have gone to GalaxyCon. Bam.
Oh. I'm just amazed. GalaxyCon, that just sounds wonderful. Tell me more about GalaxyCon.
It's actually really cool. It actually sounded really cool. So it's kind of technically it was my first con I've ever gone to, and spent time there. Like I went to the one in Raleigh, which is here in North Carolina.
You went to HeroesCon.
HeroesCon, that's it. The name escaped me. Only for a little while, then had to leave early. But I went to GalaxyCon, which was up in Durham, and I went because there were 3 Silver Surfer Silver Surfer writers and artists there, and I never thought it'd be that lucky to be basically in my backyard to meet some of the people I really think are fantastic.
For a moment there, I thought it was Silver Surfer collectors assemble.
That'd be nice. The three of us would have a really good time there.
Yeah.
It'd be a really nice meeting.
But it turned out to be creators, yeah?
Creators, yeah. So it turned out to be Ron Lim and J. Michael. I'm gonna mess this up. He wrote Silver Surfer Requiem, and he wrote Babylon.
Yeah.
He wrote Babylon 5 as well.
And a long run on Spider-Man.
A long run on Spider-Man.
Yeah, from about 2000 to about 2008, I think. Dan Slott took over.
Long.
Yeah, Dan Slott took over and did a 10-year run that just finished. So yeah, JMS, as he's kind of known. But yes, so you met him?
I did.
I didn't know you'd met him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Why? Was there something I should have gotten signed for you? I knew it.
Well, no. I knew you'd met because obviously, you know, a little bit of time has passed since you went to the con, so I've seen the photos of you embracing the people that were there, and I think you'd mentioned that JMS was going to be there, but I didn't know you'd managed to meet him as well.
Yeah, I got really lucky.
That's where my nerd antenna start twitching, because Babylon 5 was a huge thing for me in the 90s. Still is. Anyway,
I saw people with posters of Babylon 5, and had to be every signature of every cast member and a gaffers and lighting crew on that poster. It was insane.
Seriously. I mean, did you watch Babylon 5? Sorry, we'll have a small side quest here. Did you ever watch it?
Small side quest. I did watch it. I haven't seen a lot of Babylon 5. I've rewatched and watched many times Star Trek Next Generation, which is my favorite.
Yeah.
Absolute favorite. So I'm really excited about Picard. Really excited about that show and hopefully what that does. Battlestar Galactica, I finally started getting to that, which is really sick. I had no idea it was that fantastic in terms of writing and story, and just really quality all around.
And if you think about when it was made,
I know
it does the Star Trek thing very brilliantly of using sci-fi to talk about the current global political cultural situation. So if you think about it was made not long after 9/11, and it was writing about characters who you thought were heroes but then turned out to do villainous things, and vice versa. So it really plays with those ideas in an absolutely masterful way, which given, you know, the situation with the various wars and fallout from the events of 2001 is it's interesting to watch.
It's fascinating.
Did you finish Battlestar Galactica?
No, I'm not finished Battlestar Galactica.
I won't spoil anything then. I won't spoil it.
No, I'm not done yet. I think I did. How many seasons were there? Were there 3?
4, I want to say.
I'm sure.
I want to say 4, so I will say 4.
Go with 4.
There's a couple of TV movies that were made by them that fit into it continuity-wise, but they would work to watch at the end, because if you have the hindsight, I think you'd enjoy them more. And season 4 was the first. Here we go. TV. This is the TV trivia segment of the Marvel Card Collectors podcast, because I'm going to go back to Babylon 5. So we've got a side quest on our side quest. It's wonderful.
I'm going to start keeping notes. We're going to get back to it. I promise, guys.
We are. So on. I love it. This is so off piste. So Battlestar Galactica, the final is a bit trivia for it. The final season was the first time I'm aware of that the producers and the network were aware that it was so successful they split it into 2 and released it in 2, which is what they did with Breaking Bad, because they knew it was going to be ending, but of course they wanted to keep being able to distribute and release it. So they split the final season into 2 parts.
I wonder if it was the first.
I think it was. It was kind of the beginning of that box set culture of consumption of shows. It was just at the beginning of that, which I think the next show to fully kind of cement that for a lot of people was The Wire.
Yeah,
a lot of people
I remember
discovered
that.
The Wire and did that whole binge watching thing when it was still kind of DVD binge watching, and then the consumption of that fed into very much how shows are distributed now to kind of cater for that. Anyway, so back to Babylon 5. So Babylon 5 it's interesting you say a guy had a lot of the signatures. Babylon 5 is one of those beautiful projects that's really bittersweet when you look back on it, because so many of the original cast and quite young as well have now passed away. But of the actors who've passed, the gentleman who played Michael Garibaldi passed away a couple of years ago, and I think he had a bit of a rough time with kind of some drinking and possibly some other issues. So, but he had a very successful radio sort of talk radio, quite a controversial, possibly kind of towards the Republican right side of the spectrum, kind of show that went for many years. The gentleman who played the Doctor, whose name I think was Richard Biggs, he passed away not long after the show had finished, wrapped actually. I think he literally woke up one morning and had a heart attack and went straight there, is what I read, which is really sad, because he was younger than I am now. So the gentleman who played Jakar, the actor Andreas Katsoulis, who was a wonderful actor. He's had a really mellifluous voice and just the most incredible presence on screen and on stage, because he had a very successful stage career. He passed away some time ago. I mean, the list goes. The guy who played the security guy who works under Garibaldi, Zach, I think the character's name was Jeff Conaway, who'd been in Greece. He passed away.
Oh yeah,
a number of years back now. So it is really sad that so many of those brilliant ensemble aren't with us anymore. And it's one of those things. It's a show that's never been released on HE because the effects were so like new and cutting edge and computer level that they literally I don't believe have the software anymore to recreate them in HD format, which is why it's never kind of been released out, above DVD kind of quality. It's one of those things. Anyway, listen, we could do a whole thing about Babylon 5.
And I don't know as much of it.
No. I just nerded out there slightly. So we'll step back. We'll step back. So you're at the con. JMS is there. There's a guy with a poster of lots of Babylon 5 people, and we are back on the main track, people.
Let's do this. Forgot exactly why I brought all this up, but I also spoke to, I remembered,
Silver Surfer.
Tom Fleming.
Tom Fleming. Tom Fleming. Good evening, sir.
Tom. He was freaking awesome. All of them were awesome. It was really cool. I was a little worried to meet everybody because I was kind of like, well, not Tom, because I heard he was awesome. Yeah. But Lim and JMS, I was kind of like, all right. So if Ron Lim is horrible, that's going to ruin a lot of my childhood. I was like, let's see how this goes. He was a gem.
Oh, really?
Super awesome and kind. He even had a surfer page there of original art that I got to look up close and see how he, what was his method of and how he drew. And that was really cool. And I got to speak to him a bit. I did find out something freaking awesome. You guys are going to flip. All right. This is crazy. I'm glad I remembered. Remember how we talked about how the holograms were made from the 90s?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Hope you're ready.
Oh, I'm sitting now.
He told me how he did it. So he drew the Venom. He didn't draw that Silver Surfer. He drew Venom from that series of the 4 or whatever it's called. So this is how it's done.
So the 4 holograms, yeah?
The 4 holograms. He drew the Venom. It's just on multiple sheets of paper. It's not a sculpture.
Oh.
So the first sheet of paper had the hand. The second sheet of paper had the arm. Third sheet of paper had the body. And he separated it into layers.
Wow. Yeah. I realize me staring at you open mouth isn't good listening for people. But wow, that's really interesting. So 4 layers.
I think it was 4 or 3 layers, he said.
Wow.
It was a con, so it was a little busy, but that's what he told me. And he told me that's how they did it. He just did it in layers. So I asked him, I was like, I don't know how we start talking about it, but that's what it was. I brought multiple cards of Silver Surfer to him because he's done like 4 or 5.
Wow.
And I was like, I thought you could, I don't know. I saw on the website that he would do like 3 for free for signings. Okay. So I was like, well, I'll just get a couple signed, no big deal. But he, he ended up he had to charge the website was wrong. It was no big deal, obviously. Have to make it. So when he told me that, I was like, I didn't know which card to pick because I wasn't sure if I was going to spot something or buy the original art. So I wanted to save some cash. So I looked down and was like, all right, do me a favor. Which one's your favorite? So I showed him the Surfer cards and he picked his favorite. And it was the 93 Marvel Universe, the one that makes the puzzle, the 9-card puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he picked that one. And I was like, all right, awesome. Please sign it. And then, he signed it. It was really cool.
I actually re-sleeved. I forgot I had that set. It's one of these random things. On this week's segment of sets you forgot you owned. I found it when I was having a sort out, and I forgot that I had it. I bought just the base set, and when you say just the base set, it's still a pretty hefty size base set, and it's got all those 9-card pages, which is absolutely brilliant. So I re-sleeved the lot because it was in sleeves that I wanted to replace.
That's really cool.
And it was absolutely wonderful. So we'll make sure we put a picture of that 9-card on the tasting notes. And Norrin, send me a picture of that, and we'll add that up there as well, along with photos of you giving him a little bit of a cuddle.
Oh, I wanted to hard. It was pretty. I was so much taller, and I felt I have this the picture's horrible of me. I look like I'm like 3,000 pounds.
Oh, mate, no. You look happy. You look really happy. That's the main thing.
My wife was so funny. I called her all giddy afterwards because I couldn't help myself, and she was like, "Oh my god, I'm so glad." And I text her a picture, and I'm like grinning from ear to ear, and I look like I'm 7 again. I gushed over him pretty bad. I don't know. It's crazy. Like that, I remember my dad coming home with a comic book of the Silver Surfer, I think number 79. And especially that issue was super important to me at the time. And I remember him coming home and bringing back the comic book and me seeing it for the first time, and the holographic cover as well for the 75th anniversary.
Yeah.
And he never did stuff like that. I mean, he was great, but like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. It was completely out of the blue. It was just one of those things, one of those moment sparks. And I remember seeing that art, and it was it. I was just like, wow, all right, cool. And this was that was the first introduction into like the Silver Surfer, who I really appreciate now as a character and really enjoy. So it's kind of crazy to have that full experience, that full circle, and meeting him and all that kind of cool stuff.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Nice. So you met Ron Lim, you met JMS.
Yes.
And you met Tom Fleming.
So cool. What a cool dude. Holy crap. So awesome. So yeah, I waited around his booth. I finally saw him, and it was really funny. I introduced myself, and I gave him my real name, and I shook his hand. I was like, I'm from the Marvel Card Group. He goes, "Oh, you're Norrin." Of course, I'm wearing a giant Silver Surfer t-shirt. So poor guy put it together real fast that I was the Surfer dude. And he was like, "Oh my gosh, you're Nora." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh man, hi." And then we had this huge conversation around his stand for at least 35 minutes or more.
Stan Lee?
Huh?
Oh, sorry. Did you say around his stand?
His stand, not Stan Lee.
I thought you said about Stan.
No,
I was like, you because at this point it is, because I never got to meet Stan Lee. Even though, as millions do, I'm sure we all feel like we know him because he was so giving of his time and his energy. But it's gotten to the point now where we can meet him by proxy, so 1 degree of separation. So
yes.
If Tom had, and maybe he probably did at some point in the past, meet Stan Lee, you've met someone who met Stan Lee. Chances are Ron Lim did. JMS certainly would have. So
yeah, I met 2 people.
So there we go.
That's actually really cool. Thank you for putting that together, because I did not. So that was actually really cool. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
And Tom had an awesome area there, decked it out, super cool prints, tons of good stuff to buy. I was just drooling out the mouth looking at his work, and we just spoke. And to bring it back even further, he'd be so proud of me, not getting too off topic, bringing it back to the notes, the tasting notes, the mail call, not the tasting notes, the mail call. He was saying that, I don't know how we got on this topic, but he was like, I do like it when people give good criticism to the work, because it helps me improve my own work. And I kind of looked at, we were talking about something with a group or whatever. And I was like, oh, that makes total sense that you would want to hear feedback from the audience about your work and, comments and stuff like that. Then we talked about really not helpful comments, but mostly talked about good comments and things like that. So it was kind of cool to hear how artists do want to look at these forums and look at our group and look at people and are kind of looking at it and saying, all right, people are kind of into these poses or into this character. Maybe I'll do this character here, or anything for the sketch cards and stuff like that.
That's really interesting. I shouldn't assume at this point that people necessarily know who Tom Fleming is, or even that Ron Lim is. One would hope you've heard of JMS, given his history, but maybe you haven't either. So, listen, Google is your friend. However, in the case of Ron Lim, you filled that one. So, Ron Lim, what's he done? What's his backstory?
Well, Ron Lim and Jim Starlin, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, they gave us everything we know about Thanos.
Exactly.
They gave us everything that is Infinity War, Infinity Gauntlet. They are the godfathers.
Yeah.
To that story. Everything that's happening in the MCU that everyone is clamoring about and excited about, and millions of dollars came from the source material of the work they did.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're responsible for breeding that into the collective conscious
of
us all. Yeah, they've identified that form of a pop culture for us.
Still here. Keep talking. No, I'm stretching away, so you can't see me. I'm stretching away. Well, no, I'm stretching away for a very good reason, because I just suddenly remembered that here in my... here it is. I completely forgot until we started talking about this, until you mentioned it, that I have here a signed copy of Infinity Crusade 1, signed by Ron Lim.
Oh, that's sick.
Which is one of the Dynamic Forces signed editions. So it comes with a certificate of authenticity on the back there.
Yeah.
And it is unfortunately creased along the width of the book, which is really unusual, but it has that cardstock foil cover, so unfortunately it does really show up. So and it is number 73 of, wait for it, 10,000. So it's not exactly a rare item, and I'm sure I could pick up another one should I want to, but it's this copy of Infinity Crusade #1 is one of a limited series of 10,000 signed by artist Ron Lim. So hats off to you, sir, for signing 10,000 of these puppies. But it is just a wonderful book. I mean, the artwork is incredible on it, and obviously that's because I think Jim was the writer and Ron is the artist on these. I'm getting it out.
Their booths were together.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I didn't get to meet him because I went on a Thursday because I didn't want to be around the crowds.
Yeah,
and it was the cheapest day, so I was like, I'll just go on Thursday. Luckily, everybody I wanted to meet was there, but Jim Starlin, his booth was right next to Ron Lim's.
Oh.
So, yeah, so it's Sunday now, right? So it's actually technically still going on.
Yep. Yeah,
so they're technically actually over there right now.
As we talk, as we speak, they're there and their ears are going red, and they're like, "Somebody talking about me?" And the answer is yes. They are Ron and Jim. So wonderful. I'll pop a pic of that on the tasting notes as well, because it's absolutely wonderful. Because I don't know, as I speak, there is a con going on in London called the London Film and Comic Con. Which is one of those things I just don't. I need to sign up to get more emails about these things, because I genuinely didn't know it was on until like yesterday when it was already on. So I'm really not keeping my radar open as someone who kind of says, often kind of feels a bit like, oh, these cons in America sound so great, and you can go and see these guys. It's like when there is an event on in London and people, not everyone comes over because it's much more of a financial cost. So the con needs to support them and do all that. But the London Film and Comic Con is probably the biggest one in the UK.
Oh wow.
William Shatner's there. Walter Koenig is there.
Oh,
Martin Sheen, Charlie Sheen. Loads of people from The Walking Dead. I mean, the list of just actors is phenomenal. And then, of course, you've got the comic guys. I can't remember any off the top of my head now because I've been to sleep since I looked. It sounds like you had an absolute blast. And Tom, good evening, Tom. I think Tom listens. I know Dave DeVries was effusing madly about Tom and what a nice guy he is, and we know he's a very creative guy. So, in terms of for those who might not know Tom has done base artwork on a number of sets over the years. Most recently, Fleer Ultra X-Men.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got some work in Marvel Flair as well. I believe he did the Venom in Flair.
Yeah, he did.
He sold that piece to someone in the group.
Yeah, well, he sold it. He sold it to Justin, and then I think
the prelim.
I don't remember.
The prelim was on sale as well.
The prelim has been purchased, by the way, by our boy. Oh my God, Matthew Miller, who's the man.
Ah, Matthew that you met. Okay,
yeah. So
Magneto
Matthew went there the day next and then bought it all.
Oh, so Matthew, hello. Matthew's a nice guy.
Yeah,
like him a lot. He's I just like, there are collectors who are on the group and are quite vocal and out there, and there are collectors who share stuff and are just a little bit quieter and just like really into their thing and passionate, but not necessarily want to be the center of attention. And kind of Matthew strikes me as on that side of things, but just I've had a few backs and forth with him, and just seems like a really sweet guy. But as does Tom Fleming. So Tom's actually. We're trying to work out dates, but we will be having Tom on the podcast. So, as Dave
really
had,
excited. He really wants to come on, and he was telling me that he does listen, and he did listen to the Dave episode, and I'm sure other ones as well. And he really had a blast. He thought it was great.
Well, that's because I told him that Dave had come on. And I don't think he'd listened to the episode yet. And I said, "Oh my goodness, the stories Dave told us about you." And then I went on to say, I went on very quickly to say, only just kidding. And it was kind of like, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas thing, because I have a feeling there are stories there, and maybe Tom will share them with us. But Tom has, bless him, already done the intro to an episode, and that you'll have already heard it if you've listened this far from the beginning. So as I like to do, because I think it's only fair that there's a symbiosis and a support backwards and forwards amongst the hobby. I always promise that I'm going to give a shout out. So you can find Tom at various places on the interweb, as well as at that con. TomFlemingArtwork.com. You can also find him on Facebook, The Art of Tom Fleming, and Instagram, Fleming Editions. So go and check it out. Go and check him out. Tell him we sent you. If you can afford it, buy some stuff, because I promise you will not be disappointed.
Not at all.
Guy does mad work. Mad
really good work. Yeah. Crazy good work. I saw. I know it's Marvel, but he has some DC pieces too, and I saw Spectre on there, and I lost my mind. I saw that print and I was like, "You got the original?" It was like, "No, the original was like long gone." I was like, "Damn."
Yeah. The original paid for my car outside. Yeah.
I was like, "What? I'll take it." I definitely am way too hopeful with these things. I'm like, "What? You have a gem that no one's asked you for before, and I get to purchase it? Thank you."
You got to ask.
I always ask.
Which is a nice enough segue to Peach Momoko. Now, because Peach Momoko, for those who may not know, is a Japanese artist who wasn't on my radar until very recently. To be fair, I think you put me on that little trail, Norrin, because your taste is much greater than mine. These kind of things. No, but the thing is, I don't know all the artists because there's so many of them, and between us we
I got really lucky.
We discover and recommend
you. Have them all covered. Like I'm always impressed by the half and the half that I know. I'm just like, yes, we're ready to go.
That's kind of why I guess that's how we ended up here. So this episode probably won't be dropping until kind of first, second week of August. The episode that is going to come up next, that will be out by the time people hear this, was the old episode that we recorded on investments and values that we ended up shifting around for various reasons. So because that was pre-recorded on that episode, I didn't get a chance to thank Peach Momoko for doing the opening intro for that episode in Japanese.
In Japanese, it was so cool to hear.
How mad is that? And I thought that was really
so awesome.
lovely. It was lovely, really sweet. So you'll have all heard it. Go and listen to it. Come back. So I was in touch with Yo Mutsu, who is manager for Peach Momoko,
who is also equally awesome.
Yeah.
He's been super awesome.
Really, really nice guy. Because I initially reached out, and this was before that he joined our groups on Facebook, because I saw that the original art for the Black Cat that Peach had done for Marvel Flair 2019 was available for sale. And I think that was the first time I kind of looked and started exploring Peach's work and going, oh wow, that's pretty special, because it is a different style, and it is a obviously born of the cultural origins and the style from Japan. So it is a different representation of Black Cat, and I thought that was really nice. So I asked, how much it was. Unfortunately, I'm not not a big enough earner to afford it. Not that it's not worth it, but it's just original art. Yeah. It tends to be, we're talking tend to be four figures for the most part.
It's going to be, because I was going to get the
deservedly so.
No, yeah. I mean, when we talk prices, I mean, these are just, we would never talk about people who are asking crazy prices. We only talk about good people who ask the right prices, passing no judgment whatsoever. It's the right price 100%. And you can, and that comes from me, who knows a lot of the prices that artists were giving for the Flair 2019 original art pieces, as well as Ian. And they are all in the same range. So everyone's at the right mark for that, for sure.
And that's kind of original art. That is actually the market. The market for it.
And original art, and maybe we'll have a podcast one day. I don't know how knowledgeable I am of this. I'm just starting to get into it. But with original art, published original art is the tier. You know what I mean?
You mean the comic covers and pages?
Well, even like talking about published card art. Yes. You know what I mean? Like, that's also part of that tier. Anything that's published that's original art is going to fetch a good price.
And officially licensed, it has to be said.
Unofficially licensed, yeah. So, and Peach, and this is the cool thing about cards, is that most of these artists eventually are hitting inside Marvel. And I'm sure she's done work for Marvel before on comic books. I don't know for sure. But I know she's coming out with covers now, variant covers.
Wow.
So I know more work's coming. And I know she just posted the alternate prelim for Black Cat. Did you see it?
I did. So what that was, so let me finish this story, because I asked, when I realized that was unfortunately out of my price range, and listen, someone will deservedly own that, and that's fine. I asked if there may be a preliminary art, because sometimes there's a pencil version, and unfortunately not. In this case, I think her process is that she then creates the painting over that. So it wasn't that she did a separate sketch to sort of sketch it out and then went on to kind of do that in a bigger format, perhaps, for example, or do it digitally, which is often the case with some artists. So there isn't an existing, preliminary sketch of that. That's often a slightly more affordable option to get some artwork from an artist that you admire without buying the final finished product. And I find those fascinating, because they're kind of a real sort of insight into the process that the artists go through to do it. I have a piece incoming, actually, that I wasn't going to talk about just yet, but I'm going to talk about it. So very, very recently, Joe Jusko, because we can't frankly let episode go by without us talking about him. Good evening, Joe. It seems. So he recently found and put available for sale on Marvel Masterpieces Collectors, MMC, the original pencil work for some of the Marvel Masterpieces 2016. and it went nuts. And he sold a lot in a very short space of time, and they were very reasonably priced, and he only offered them to us, which I thought was wonderful. So thank you for that, Joe.
Thank you.
Amongst them wasn't anything of Black Cat, which was good because it happened overnight. So
Yeah,
I
I'm so worried.
would have missed out. However, I was in the process of talking to Joe about something else, and he did subsequently find a very rough prelim of the Black Cat artwork he did for Marvel Masterpieces 2016. And the interesting thing about it is that it's reversed from the pose that she was in the final painting. So in the final painting, I believe she's kind of right to left. Her body is angled. But in the preliminary artwork that I've purchased from Joe, it's the other way around.
That's really cool.
Which I think is absolutely fascinating. So that's what I mean by the process of an artist maybe working something up and actually, especially in the case of the style that Joe does. I know from his Instagram that he does a number of preliminary works and sketches things out and gradually builds it and in the process decides whether something looks right or looks wrong. I remember the Hunt for Wolverine variant cover that he did for Midtown Comics. If you go and check out Joe's Instagram feed and scroll back, because he posts some good stuff, and it was a little while ago, you can see the process of how he sketched that out and then changed his mind about where something was going to go, and then about how the costume was. So it's interesting to see. Anyway, so back to Peach. So because Peach did that intro for us, I also want to just give that shout out to Peach. So if anyone's interested in seeing Peach's work, the website is www.peachmomoko.com, and I'm going to spell that. So Peach like the fruit, MOMOKO.com, and she's also on Instagram at peachmomoko60. So I'm not sure the significance of the number 60. I didn't know there were 59 other Peach Momokos on Instagram. Is what that tells me. And also a big shout out to Yo. And one final thing I will say is if anyone does have Marvel Flair and busted some boxes and has any of the base cards, just the base cards, any spares, any singles of the cards that Peach did, Yo asked me to put a shout out to say if anyone has some and doesn't mind parting with them, and he will buy them, but I think Peach wants some copies for herself, and she doesn't have them. So if anyone listening has Broken Flair, has made their set, has some spares, or even isn't going for a set and is going for a certain character or subset, has some Peach Momoko cards, then and we steer some towards Peach. That would be great. So if you don't know where to go on that, then just contact myself or Norrin or put a post on the podcast page, and we'll make sure they go in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, I'm going to loop back to the letter column. So we have a guy called Tamron Dubois, which is an absolutely fantastic name. Good evening, Tamron. I know Tamron listens because he's posted feedback before on the podcast page, and he came to the group from discovering this podcast, which is really fascinating.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And he's completely new, and he drives. I hope you don't mind me saying this, Tamron. I'll reach out to you before this drops, and if you don't want us to say this, then we won't. But he drives trucks for a living, I believe.
Oh, cool.
And so just devours podcasts, obviously, when he's on the road, and ours being one of them. So we are echoing around the ears of your cab as we speak, literally. So thank you, Tamron, for supporting the podcast. He posted on the podcast page on Facebook, facebook.com/MCC pod, which you don't need to be a Facebook member to go to. So it's kind of like our website. He asked, is there an episode about newbies navigating the hobby in the works? And I was like a Cards 101? And he put, something like a 101, maybe mistakes to avoid. He says, I picked up the 92 Marvel Masterpieces set to start off with, but where to go next from there? And I thought, as it's taken us almost 50 minutes to get to the point where I wanted to talk about this episode, I wanted to kind of start on a Cards 101.
I think that's a great idea. I think it's long overdue.
Yeah.
I say we go into it.
Yeah. So I don't think we're going to nail it all in this episode. So This episode, I can tell you now, will be Cards 101 Part 1. And so I was going to start with, I've just put some bullet points down here. And I'm going to hit up the first few, and then we'll get into it. So I've put what sets, what characters, try some you like, so try before you buy, research, and budget. And they all kind of overlap, which is why I've just kind of reeled them off. So my starter for 10 would be, what have you seen that you like? And why did you like it? What was it that appealed to you about that? So obviously in the case of Tamarin, you started out with Marvel Masterpieces 1992, which is an excellent vintage. Great. And a wonderful place to start.
Yeah.
Why did you like it? Was it the style of artwork? Was it the design of the cards? Was it I don't know. I guess that's the question. And I can't answer that question. It's going to be a different answer for everyone.
Yeah. And I remember when I started, it was sketch cards that threw me right up front. But I do think design is a huge part of it. And I think the best way to kind of look at eBay is your friend. Enjoy eBay, search as long as you want, and look at tons of things before you start diving into anything. That would be some advice that I would say up front.
Yeah. Join a Facebook group or four. Obviously I've got two that I can happily recommend. There are others out there. There are, as is normal, when you get off the plane, we recognize that you have a choice of airlines, and we thank you for flying with the Marvel Cards Fan Collective. But there are other groups out there. So, and a lot of guys are in this, a lot of guys are in
we overlap.
We overlap massively. So it is a small but passionate community, small and passionate rather. So have a look. See what people are posting, see what people are sharing, have a look on eBay. Have a look at sites like, and these are largely text-based to be fair, but have a look at Jeff Allender's House of Checklists.
I brought up all the sites for him before this Zoom recording.
That's great.
Just as a list of resources, and we'll obviously have this in the tasting notes. Sorry, Ian. And so the first one is Jeff Allister's House of Checklist Cards, I think. Allender. Whoops, I'm a horrible person. I'm sorry, Jeff. I do not want to be blacklisted from Jeff. So
imagine if that site disappears, a million souls will scream in agony at once.
They'd be so mad at me. Okay, so the website is nslist.com. That's the first one, and everything. I think it's fair to say that everything's there. Like every checklist for every Marvel, DC,
film, entertainment,
non-sport. Non-sport. It's there. Like that's really key resource. I didn't use it for a long time because it was so text heavy, and it seems like a site that's very text heavy, and I couldn't navigate it at first, just because it's an older site. So it took me a little while to get into it, but don't make that mistake. This is the site to go to, in my opinion, because there can be a lot of obscure releases.
Yep.
And this brings us to the next point for Cards 101, right? You don't have to decide this at all, but it's good to get a good understanding of, are you going to go for sets? Are you going to go for an artist? Are you going to go for characters? I think the thing that collectors are doing nowadays, because the cards have become so premium, at least some of them have become really premium, is that we've gotten really creative with how to collect. And that's made it really fun and less disappointing too, because some of these sets are so massive. Some of these cards are one of ones. Having a full set, unless you're buying an exuberant amount of product, is going to be very, very difficult to do. So get creative with it. Have fun with it. Make lists. I know we all make lists. I always crack up when I talk to collectors. I'm like writing a little list on paper and they're like, oh, this is what I'm going for. And it's like on a little memo pad. And they're like, here, check it out. And they're like sending it through me Messenger. That's the funniest thing to me. I love that. I draw little 9-page things just because I'm excited. And me and Ian have joked around about that because me and him do the same thing. So that's been really fun about card collecting as well. It's kind of seeing how creative and how interesting how people put their collections together in interesting ways.
Definitely. I think the other interesting thing about that is obviously when you're in that kind of research or discovery phase, I guess, is just have an idea of, how deep you want to get into it. And this is where it helps. I'm going to jump ahead here to a bullet point I had at the end, is ask advice.
Yeah.
Because you can ask, and it's almost as if I would say, even if, if you're new to the hobby, find yourself a kind of a card mentor, if you like, to just kind of ask questions. I mean, you can ask any of us in the group. There's no such thing as a stupid question, but
really,
a lot of the things that we talk about that we kind of take for granted. So you mentioned sketch cards there, and you mentioned 9 card, and we can't assume that people will know what they are. So sketch cards, all I'm going to say for that now is literally that is a card that from a licensed Marvel set, either from Rittenhouse or Upper Deck. I think Topps have done a few, where it is officially licensed product. It will have a printed back that will be in keeping with the manufacturer of those cards and the set design. The front will be blank primarily, and it will have a feel to it like it's almost like it's the kind of, well, it is the kind of material that an artist would draw on. And it might have the logo on there, or it might have a border or frame of some kind, and an artist will do an original piece of work on that sketch card, and that will be a 1 of 1 because they've done it and it's an original piece. So that's what we talk about.
Yeah, and it will indicate on the back of the card that it is a true 1 of 1. You'll see that marking.
Yeah.
So that is there.
Yeah. So that's what we mean by sketch cards, but we will do a separate episode about sketch cards because they are a kind of a hobby in themselves. I think there's a lot of people who do sketch 100%. Cards that don't touch any of the base cards, any of the chase cards, any of the
I know tons of, because I'm definitely a collector who bridges those two worlds together in my collection. Because I know a lot of people are heavy sketch cards who don't buy. Actually, I had someone get mad at me. I won't name him out. He's a good buddy of mine. He's another surfer collector as well. And I told him about particular cards from Flair. And I was like, dude, these are awesome. You should get into them. And he was like, well, maybe I'll buy one. He sent me a text 2 days ago. He was like, you bastard. I'm 9 cards in. I hate you so much. He was so mad at me that I made this poor guy get into the cards because he was only high-end sketch card and like crazy collection. Crazy collection.
Yeah.
But he was so mad at me. But it is something to think about in terms of how you want to go about this. Also, and I'll only bring this up briefly because we talked about this tons in the last episode, just a little remark. Don't rush to buy. If you think something's super rare, most of the time it will already be gone if you've second thought it, and it'd be at a higher price point. So if you think something's a really rare thing, just shoot us a message. I would say put it to the wall in the group, but just in case you want to keep it secret, you can find someone who's not into what you're into. There's collectors I speak to because I know they would never have any interest in the surfer. So I hit them up first because I trust their opinion and I check. So the same thing that goes to like card mentoring. Look at the stuff, take your time, figure out what you want. If you're the type of person who gets into a hobby and that hobby funds the hobby more, you know what I mean? Like you're eventually going to sell. Flip is such a harsh word, but I mean, technically it's what we do. But you're paying for the hobby through the hobby by getting cards that are rare or just by chance because you're opening boxes and stuff like that. when you get a new card and it's super rare and you know that it looks good and you're not quite sure, just keep it to yourself.
Yep.
You can share it. You don't have to sell it. I suggest you hold on to it for a finite amount of time and say to yourself, okay, nothing's out there that I truly want unless you want the money, which makes sense. Hold on to your cards. There's no rush to trade them. Anyone who's doing backdoor dealing or trying to hit you up fast as possible, which I've been guilty of, not backdoor dealing, but, hitting someone up immediately when I see they pulled something like, hey, buddy. No, don't worry about that. Take your time with it, because you don't want to get into that situation where you're that collector who regrets trading something or selling something too early because you were new to the hobby. That's a big piece of advice that I would like to have heard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One thing I will say just about the format of things. So for a lot of people, we remember a time I like to think of as BB, before boxes. And what I mean by that is when you were able to buy packs of cards, and actually buy packs every time you went to the drugstore, every time you went to the comic store, every time you went to the mall, whatever it may be, wherever you grew up, however you remember these things. For a lot of us, we are remembering them from an earlier point of life, maybe when we were children, 80s, 90s, as we've talked about on previous episodes how we got into that, and you might remember buying them as packs. But nowadays, the kind of modern collecting, and this has been the case for probably 10 years or so now, maybe slightly longer, is people tend to buy by the box now, partly because, and not so much in the Rittenhouse days, but certainly now for Upper Deck, they are designed in a way that you will not get a full set from a single box. The boxes and the product tend to be more premium, and the size of the set is vast as well. So I think it's a case of, if you're buying now and you're buying new stuff, buy box to try something out and enjoy that. Open it. You can either open it on a video for the group, or you can just open it for yourself and post your pulls and just however you want to do it. Do what works for you and enjoy it for you primarily, because there is an endorphin rush in sharing it and talking about it and pulling something and going to your buddies on the group and saying, yeah, look what I just pulled. But ultimately, do whatever works for you and whatever feels good. But if you're wanting to go kind of more old school and say, well, I'm not too keen on the modern stuff, I'd rather get slightly more bang for my buck, in some cases, not all cases, you can go back and buy a sealed box of, I'm just going to pull something at me there, Marvel Universe 1992, which is a big set. It's 200 cards, and actually, in that case, it's probably a really bad one to choose. So I'm not sure if you would get a full set, but chances are you would get most of the set in that box.
Some of the 90s stuff, you would get full sets from just one box purchase.
Exactly. Masterpieces 92, if you buy the tin, which I think you did, Tamarin, you would have gotten the full set because they came with that. But if you bought a box
get any
of
Lost cards when the tin?
I believe so, because that's where they came.
Buying the tin.
Yeah,
I think that's where they came, right? Okay.
Yeah, but I've been seriously eyeing up. There's a similar tin for that set, Marvel Universe 1992, which is the set that Joe Driscoll did the backgrounds for, that we've talked about before, that had the holograms in, which for me is, if I just had that set, and nothing else, if I was on a desert island and I had one set with me, I'd be more than happy with Universe 92 or Masterpieces 92.
Desert set. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Desert Island set.
Desert Island sets. We're going to have to do that. Yeah. I mean, apart from sand and cards maybe not being the best mix.
I mean, you're on a desert island. Do you care about preserving them at that point?
At that point, maybe not. So,
but there is something I did want to say, though, in terms of buying old boxes.
Yes.
Be very careful.
Oh, yeah.
Because, and I think he might have said this too, or maybe I'm putting someone else out there who told me this. The cards will stick together.
I think Amanda might have mentioned that.
It might have been Amanda. It was Amanda. They might stick together because they weren't in an air conditioning room. They were in a storage room with no air conditioning. They were in a closet. They were in a shed, wherever they were. They might stick together, and it would ruin the card. You have to be extremely.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Not every time. I mean,
no,
really?
Mine didn't.
Wow.
Yeah, mine didn't. What I found with mine was that it's really difficult to describe in an audio way, and I'm going to hold up my fingers. If you kind of did this thing where you just very slowly sort of roll because there'll be several of them sandwiched together. So if you kind of put your thumb and forefinger at the top and bottom of that, and just kind of angled it slightly, and it just very gently kind of shimmies them apart, because and in well, listen, I don't open as much old products as Amanda does, so she may have found more than that for me. But in the few cases I've done, that was fine. Now, I will go on to talk about storage actually, because for a lot of people, obviously, opening old packs aside, storage is different people do it in different ways. And the reason I bring up storage is, I guess it all depends on how, there's no other word for it, anal you're going to be about the quality of the cards that you have. So some people are really, really, really focused. This isn't a bad thing. It's just the way they roll.
It's just who I am. I'm a very focused, crazy person that way.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I wasn't actually. I genuinely wasn't talking about you.
I'm outing myself. No, I'm just making those people feel better. I'm definitely one of those people.
Some people are really keen on them being like, gem mints, which is the kind of phrase if you're grading cards, and kind of sealing them and having them graded, that that's the top end of a scale that gives it a number from 1 to 10 that looks at any flaws the card might have. And when I'm talking about flaws here, it really does look at them probably closer than most people would. It looks at the sharpness of the corners, it looks at whether there's any fraying to the edges, whether there's any indentations on the card at all, whether there's any flaws in the gloss of the card. It looks at all these stuff. Looks at all of that stuff. Now, for me, I'm less worried about that. Now, I don't want them to look like they've been rolling around with the dog. On the other hand, as some of the Fleer Ultra X-Men 95 I've acquired look like
just so you know, that is a good 101 segue, small segue. The premium cards are thicker stock, and they will naturally have flaws on them. A lot of them are not very clean. I mean, they're clean, they're nice, but they're not Gem intense. Like, you're not going to see a lot of Jusco, Simone, Fleer Ultra X-Men, Fleer Ultra Spider-Man. They're not going to be like clean. It's very difficult to get those cards as pristine as possible.
Just out of interest, why do you say that?
How many graded Jusco cards have you seen at 10s?
I've got to be honest with you, I haven't looked.
Oh, okay. Yes. No.
I'm just curious to know, because I genuinely don't know the answer.
I don't see them. So
is it even possible to get a 10? Because it's not. I don't want to get into because grading will be an episode, people. I know we keep saying that, but and maybe this is a
10 in what
question. Well, it's not possible to get a 10 in comics.
Okay, very rarely. It's not possible. I think the only reason it's not possible to do it in comics, and it is able to do it in cards, is because you only have one piece of cardboard. In a comic book, you have multiple pages, you have different colorations, you have different frailing, you have different corner, but you know what I mean? Like, there's too many variables.
It would have been handled in some way.
Right. You might get like a 9.9 in comics. Rare.
Yeah.
Rare to get a
9.8, I think, is the highest I ever see. I don't know why, but it seems to go in even numbers. When
they go to 10. They go to 10. They go to 9.9 and they go to 10.
Oh, but do they? Wow.
Okay. Yeah. You can go to CGC.
That's
and
it.
you can go to the census and you can see what the grade range is, but they go all the way to 10. It's 9.9 and 10. I've seen 9.9 signature on some things.
Yeah, I've just never seen them. Even like brand new product that's coming out and being sold as it's being sold pre-stamped. Okay, all right, cool.
But anyway. Cards will go to 10. The cards do, and they go not often. I mean, they're rare. You know what I mean? It's a gem. They'll be more intense than comic books.
Yeah. So I guess if that's for you, if that's what gets your engine running, cool on the gang, and that kind of leads on to storage. So for me, I'm a binder guy. I like the binders. Now, a lot of sets in the 90s had official binders. Not all of them did. They are wonderful things to have. They don't necessarily always age well and stand up to a lot of time. Rittenhouse, for their run having the Marvel license on cards in the noughties and through to about 5-6 years ago, produced binders for each of their sets. They're nice. They're nice binders, and obviously you can still find them in pretty decent condition. Actually, they tend to stand up to a little bit more wear. They're more modern production process, etc. The current sets do not produce official binders, so I guess if you're going to go the binder route, both the official binders that come with sets that have them, or if you're going to buy binders from, say, Amazon or Staples or wherever it is you choose to get stationery, I tend to go for a D-ring binder, because it will just make it easier for the pages to sit in the binder and also to move when you're flipping through it. I tend to go for 4-ring binders, so 4 D-ring binders, and depending on how big the set is, you may need to go for a thicker binder, and you may need to go for more than one binder on some of these crazy big modern sets like Marvel Masterpieces 2018, for example. Fleer Ultra X-Men definitely is a multi-binder job. And a lot of these binders that you buy for sets that, from a stationery place, for sets that don't have official binders, you can often get them with clear pocket covers on the spine and on the front, and sometimes on the inside. So if you wanted to, you could slip in something that you've printed yourself and just put together just to make it nice for you, which is what I do. I prefer to do that because I can customize it exactly how I want to, and if I decide to change it, I can just go and knock something else up and print it out. There are people in the hobby who make binders and do artwork for binders and actually sell the binders with the artwork in, or the artwork to be slipped into that kind of binder with a pocket. So whichever route you choose to go, it's entirely up to you. When we talk about pages or pockets, invariably cards are stored in 9 card pockets. I tend to use a brand called Ultra Pro, and they're platinum sleeves. So Ultra Pro Platinum 9 card sleeves are what I use. They do fit the thicker modern sets. You do have to be a bit careful putting them in. I think this ties into the comment you made about the corners on the thicker cards, perhaps not them being a bit trickier to get as in that gem mint condition, because chances are someone slipped them either into a 9-pocket sleeve or into a penny sleeve, which is an individual plastic sleeve designed to fit a single card, which then may go into a plastic case called a top loader. Or if you don't choose to store them in binders or in individual penny sleeves and top loaders, there are other things that you can get. I'm going to hand over to you here because I don't do this, and Stephen Bagley mentioned something on a post last night where he talked about 130-point magnetic case, and I kind of glazed over because I literally know very little about it. So I'm going to hand over to you.
So yeah, I am not a binder guy. I wish I was, because I like the effect that a binder gives, but I was definitely one of those kids back in the day that got horribly scarred by a binder because I went to go close my binder and the D rings went right into the front of my cards and made that crease. So classic rookie mistake. You do not hurry up and close your binder when you're running to go eat dinner because you're late to your mom's house.
Or overfill your binder.
Or overfill your binder. These are rules.
I've seen some rules for card collecting. Don't overfill your binder, which I will also tack on to. Don't overspend, but we'll come to budgeting in a moment. The reason I mentioned this is because I saw a comment from someone on the group. Apologies, I can't remember who you were, or still are indeed, because you haven't ceased to be. Who said that I don't use binders because they can sag and cause bending. Now that is true, that can happen, but generally only tends to happen if you've got too many pages in the binder.
Yeah.
So what happens is the pages, the 9-card pages, tend to bunch up kind of at the top of the D ring, and because it's a D ring, it naturally curves. And so if there's too many pages in there, then the top pages will go around that curve, and yes, you could potentially, especially on the thinner cards, get a bend in the card.
Yeah.
So don't overfill your binders, or do what Noen does.
Or what? Or do what I do.
Or do what Noen does, yeah.
Do what I do. Which you don't have to. I do two things. I'm gonna have to post. I'm gonna find you links so I can post this in there.
Links and photos, folks.
Links
Posting
and photos.
notes. So That's what they're there for.
I'll do like a small video of what my collection looks like. So I'm more of a box person. I like everything in boxes. I like boxes within boxes upon boxes. It's just this weird cat thing I do. I don't know. My stuff feels strangely more safe when it's in a box. I don't know why. That's insane. I'm aware.
Are we talking about your cards or your underwear?
Either way, I'm open to that. I don't like boxes at all. No, I'm just kidding. So for me, it's top loaders. So it's penny sleeve top loader and then into a card sleeve. Is it called a card sleeve? What is it called? The sleeve that the top loader goes into?
The plastics. So you've basically got, my understanding of a vernacular is that the card initially goes into a penny sleeve.
Right, it's a penny sleeve.
And then into a top loader. And then I think do you mean the one with the flap and the resealable?
Yeah.
I think that's called a team bag.
Team bag, that's right.
Because it's from sports card. Because the idea is you could put a number of single cards in there, and you would effectively have the team or whoever it is in that bag.
So the reason you put a team bag, the reason you put your top loader into a team bag, now I know it seems kind of crazy. That's kind of a lot, right? Hear me out. If you're going to be handling your cards a lot, you're going to want to look at them, you're going to want to thumb through, you're going to have all that kind of instinct to want to do that and handle them inside their plastics. Now, here's the issue. You drop that, which has happened to me, the card slips out, the weight of the top loader bends the card, it's over. You got it bent. Now, you could not care. You could be a person who's better than me and doesn't care, which I respect you and admire. But personally, having a team bag from that means that if I drop the top loader, nothing happens. The card doesn't fall out, card stays within the plastic, everything's gravy. So that's what I tend to do. For the higher price point cards, the more premium cards, the cards that are one of ones that are impossible to replace, I go one touch magnetic case. And those are also from Ultra Pro. And those cases have particular sizes. They have like a 130 point, which I think is Marvel Masterpiece.
And when you say point, we're talking about that's the measurement of the thickness of the card.
That's the measure of thickness for the card. So 130. Some cards are even thicker. So if you're into sports, you have jersey cards. If you're into Marvel, you have the suspended animation cards. You have cards that are thicker in nature. So they're 200 point, and there's a 100 point, a 75 point, a 55 point, a 35 point. So they do come in a very wide range. Personally, just as a side note, since it's a 101, this is something I do, other people don't do. That's fine. In terms of sketch cards and any other card, I don't like the card pressing against the top loader or the plastic or the one-touch magnetic. So I like a little bit of space there. So if a card fits a 55-point top loader, right? Top loaders also come in these measurements as well, just so you guys know. For me, I like a little bit of wiggle room. Not enough where a corner will get damaged, but just enough that it's not this like, remember when you used to have to shove the card into your 9-page pockets?
Yeah.
Right? You were like having to like eek very slowly just to get it all the way through. You don't want that. Don't do that. Don't mess with it. Just get the size up. Don't try to think that you're going to tap your way into getting the card to fit in the holder. That's just, it's a nightmare, and it's not good for the keepsake of the card either, in my opinion. I don't know how that works out for anybody. So I would definitely steer clear of that. Look at the different sizes. If you ever have any questions on what size card or what fit what, you can just ask the group. Someone will immediately tell you, because we all have gone through this hell and we're all in this together. So just let us know. and we're happy to tell you what works for us, what doesn't work for us. In order to avoid spending lots of money at trying to figure it out, look through the photo album, look through people's posts, see how they fit. You might go from binder to top loader one day. That's fine. It's going to happen. It happened to me. I tried to go binder for my collection. I couldn't do it. It made me nervous. It just made me nervous. So I was like, I need top loader with a box inside another box, because I've learned that about my box self. So that's what I would say about storage. Primary. In terms of temperature, there's a great collector in our group, Dr. Strange Archives. Great dude, really awesome. This guy's a professional in terms of storing. He has a website that's an archive website for his Doctor Strange collection. He has done temperatures. He has done light. You're looking for plastics for top loaders and penny sleeves that have no PVC. And the reason you're looking for that is so they don't stick to the penny sleeve, or they don't stick to the top loader.
Gotcha.
Most of them have no PVC, but if you're buying third party or you're on Amazon, you're not sure it's Ultra Pro or wherever it is, we're not sponsored. Just be careful. Look for the big things. UV protected and no PVC. I'm sure I'm missing a few, but there are some good resources in our group and people to really help you out. And temperature is important. Do not keep your stuff out in the shed in the backyard. Have it in air conditioning. Don't keep your stuff in daylight. If you have it on your desk, look at where the daylight is. Do not have your stuff directly in the sun, especially if you're not.
I'm looking around my loft here, and you would probably weep. It does get quite warm up here when it's really hot.
I know there's a specific temperature where it doesn't work. I mean, it's not that extreme.
Listen, it's one of those things, in America, air conditioning is pretty standard in a lot of places. Tends to be much, much less standard in the UK. Especially in the old buildings we have, we just don't have air conditioning in that way. So I guess it depends what type of thing you've got as well, because you've got original art for the most part in these things.
Cards,
and that is a kind of a different. That's a very different. They're much more high value. They are one of ones, so you're going to want to take those extra steps to protect it. For me, I'm looking over here, and I've got binders of simple. I say simple, but printed cards that are thin cards that are from earlier sets, and they just work better in a binder format for me because they take up less room because they're.
I don't have as much as well as Ian. Like you guys have to understand. Like some collectors, like Ian is a madman. Ian has like sets and sets and sets. This guy is like an archivist. I don't have that.
I certainly don't have quite as many as you think. There are guys.
That's a nice bookcase.
It is a nice bookcase, but it's seriously that's if you look at some of the guys in the group.
Yes, true.
Wow, Jacob Hines. Jacob is a dude.
Real cool dude
in Texas. Good evening, Jacob.
Hey, bud.
Hope you're listening. What he doesn't know about 90s promos isn't worth knowing. I think he's a resource. He's a legend. He's got the most enviable collection where he's tracked down a lot of stuff, and that's his thing. So it's actually quite a nice little segue. For a lot of people, they don't go for modern. They just go for the 90s stuff because there's enough out there to keep you busy for quite a few years.
For quite a while.
Tracking it all down.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go for every set released in the 90s.
Yeah. And the 90s
drive yourself nuts.
No. But it's going to get. You have to understand, we're at this point in our hobby where we're at that 10-year mark type of thing. This is going to start getting. This stuff is really not. It's not kept well. 90s cars are not kept well. Go to Facebook Marketplace and you'll see a lot of people who didn't keep their stuff nice. And it's very hard to find these in good condition. And you can even see that with the buybacks. Now, buyback, just as briefly, just to give you a little clue, is that some of the premium sets that are coming out, they have an insert card that's called a buyback. It's basically the actual card from the 90s that has a stamp or some other legible marking on it that separates it from the others. And they're usually limited run and serial numbered. And those are called buybacks. Now, those buybacks are also in Upper Deck bought plenty, but not all of them are in the best of shape. And those are numbered. So the idea with these older cars is that preservation and keeping them nice is what's going to make the value on those cards greater than people finding 90s cards in the shed, in their garage, whatever the case may be. So the key thing here about those 90s cards is preservation, in my opinion, and that might be an opinion thing.
Yeah.
Just to give you some insight to what the collecting is like. These sets that these guys are doing, the 90s cards that you're only spending on 90s, those are very nice sets, and that's a great way to go. It's something I'm always on the fence about doing, because it is freaking awesome too.
Exactly. And it's also worth saying that some sets are more affordable than others. So get a sense of that before you dive in. I guess kind of almost say, right, okay, this year I think I'm going to go after X, Y, Z, and kind of set yourself a little goal on what you might go. And it'll be very tempted, which is where I fall down, is to have multiple side quests happening at once. So I'm probably currently ongoing building sets have at least 15 to 20 sets that I'm slowly piecing together. It's just, but that's the thing. Some of them I haven't touched in years. So Marvel Masterpieces 96, I count as that. I'm not currently actively collecting it. I've got about 2/3 of it, and I wish I'd started again when they were a bit cheaper than they are now. But it's kind of, someday I'll go back to it, but it's not. You can't do everything at once unless you're really, really affluent, or you're a madman. So I guess that touches on, as well as setting yourself kind of a little goal as to what you might fancy, what you might want to go for. Just be realistic about how much it's going to cost and how much you're willing to spend.
Yeah, and I will say this: we are talking about budget and stuff, but I won't bring up budget. What I mean by this is that do not be discouraged by people who have a lot of one-on-ones and people who have cards that you won't touch for a little while. Look, take it from someone who's been in the game for a while. Everything eventually comes up for sale.
Yeah, if one-of-one's your thing.
If that's absolutely true. If it's not your thing, it's not your thing. But if there is a card you're missing and you're like, well, you know what? I'm not going to need bother because I'll never see that card. Don't be too discouraged by that. Things eventually come up. New product comes out. People are like, well, I need to make money back on this because I now want to go into this. People's taste change.
Oh, I need to eat.
Yeah, I need to eat. I can't sell my car because I already did that last month. So what's left for money?
Yeah.
This is something to think about.
Yeah, life happens. So I guess, Tamron, we've kind of gone around the houses there. We've touched on a few things. I guess for us, it's really good to do this podcast when you guys, not just Tamron, anyone listening, comes up with any questions, stuff you want to hear us talk about. Is there anything that we've just had a very, very, very quick 40-minute or so run through what to do if you've never collected cards, and I'm sure we've missed something. I'm sure we touched on sketches, base cards, which are the kind of a base set, and then there's usually chase cards, which are the subsets that will appear in fewer packets than the main base cards. There are different ways to. Sorry, I just had some pinging in my ear because Matthew Matthew, you're interrupting this recording of the Marvel Card Collectors podcast. I love you dearly, but stop it. He's sending me pictures of sketches. So it's typical Matthew trying to elbow his way onto a podcast episode where we haven't mentioned him yet.
Matthew,
here he is again. He's sending me Psylocke sketch card images, which I appreciate. I jest, of course. Thank you, Matthew, for the Sunday sketch masterpiece that we do in Marvel Masterpieces. We've had a few submissions for that, which is great. It tends to go feast or famine. I tend to have weeks where no one submitted anything at all, and then I have weeks where, I've got a queue. I've got enough for the next month now.
That's awesome.
Which is wonderful. It's absolutely fantastic because the idea is you guys show off the sketch cards to a wider community. You get a shout out and people see stuff that's not sat in someone's closet in a box or a binder, depending on which way you tend to store it. Anyway, Matthew, my train of thought has left the station. So all I'm going to sum up is say, on Cards 101 for now, and there are elements of this we're going to touch on. We're going to, we want to talk about binders more. I want to talk about specifically about the Rittenhouse years more, and we're going to focus on certain sets. So I guess we've already chosen to focus on a couple of sets. We focused on Marvel Masterpieces 92. We focused on 2016. We focused on 2018 by virtue of the fact that we had a Q&A with Simone Bianche that kind of didn't. Well, it did go exactly as it was supposed to do. We just didn't have the video to share with everyone, so we went on that. So we focused on a lot of that stuff. Are there sets you guys want to hear us talk about that we haven't? Are there questions you want us to answer? Are there elements of collecting that we keep talking about and saying we're going to cover that you're like, get on with it, come on, I've got all day. You laughing at me?
No. Something else happened.
Outrageous behaviour. Anyway, grumpy. That's grumpy old card collector man.
I'm glad we have a name for our mascot now.
Grumpy old card collector man. Oi, get off my binders. So we will. We've lost Norrin. Norrin has gone.
I'm good.
That's good. That's good. That's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. It's gone. It's gone. No. I'm losing it. It's Sunday
your
afternoon.
Questions and your feedback will help us gear these future episodes. Yeah. And we'd love to tackle any questions that are happening in the community. We have a couple of things coming up. I think by the time of this recording, we would be even more excited about Marvel Premiere 2019. I'm assuming.
Well, by the time this drops, hopefully, people will be more excited about it. And
hopefully.
No, I'm hearing end of August is the latest, which is absolutely fine on a lot of people's wallets, although there are people jonesing to get hold of it. Me, I'm my needle's not even moving on it, but I know folk are invested in it and interested in it, so we'll talk about it. And who's to say that my needle won't move to 100 if there's a Black Cat card in the mix?
Yeah, which would be pretty crazy.
Yeah, that'll get me standing to attention.
Yeah. Flare 19.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that will be on EPAC until past August.
Fine by me.
I'm assuming.
Fine by me. This week.
It's usually 2 months after release.
Yeah.
That usually they pop it on EPAC. Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm just speculating here. So that might be happening. So we'll have that there.
And while we've inadvertently segued into releases that are coming up, I am going to talk about this because I'm going to talk about this. You can edit it out if you want, but someone inadvertently put a future release into the public domain before it was supposed to be in the public domain. There we know that artists are now working on a set called Marvel 80, which will be the 80th anniversary of Marvel. Which
we're talking about
who in the comics. Yeah, well, we'll talk about it. We can edit it out, but
I don't know. Will I? Who knows?
who knows? You might accidentally miss that bit. Whoops. So anyway, that is definitely coming, and that's all we're going to say about it for now. I'm hoping it's coming out this year. Well, there's nothing else I can kind of say. I mean, we can speculate until we're blue in the face.
We're going to speculate. I'm a human being with an opinion. I have to speculate.
So I think it's going to be a fun set. I've had some very off the record deep throat would be the phrase I'm going to use. Conversations with a couple of artists about it, and it's going to be a fun set. I think it's going to be quite a lot of fun, quite nostalgic.
Such a broad word.
I'm hoping now 80 years. You're going to celebrate 80 years, and yet you've still got a ban list as long as your arm.
It's gone. I knew it. It's over. Ban list gone. I'm
not saying that, but no, I haven't heard that. That's what this is me speculating now.
I know, but this is now I'm going to go in rumor territory, and I'm going to put this out there, and people will be like, "Well, do you think there's no more ban list?"
But that's the thing.
Is that irresponsible?
Disney now owns 20th Century Fox. So there is no reason whatsoever why that should be. You know, people are speculating after San Diego Comic-Con last week. People are speculating massively that the price of X-Men issues is going to spike when the
comic book specs
MCU
have gone
announced.
crazy.
Yeah.
Because like D23 is coming up, right?
Yeah, that's the Disney kind of expo, isn't it?
Yeah, that one's going to be huge. I'm speculating here. Don't know if it's true, but I'm thinking Phase 5. I'm thinking things are going to be said at the Disney one that weren't said at the San Diego Comic-Con
That's
one.
interesting. I'm not sure if they'd put that much out there just yet, because there's still I don't know. Well, basically, for those who may not know or be hiding under a rock or just not interested, San Diego Comic-Con last weekend on the Sunday, the Marvel panel. Kevin Feige and he who guides the Marvel Cinematic Universe announced Phase 4, so the post-Endgame next kind of few years of the Marvel MCU Cinematic Universe. Thor 4, which they've wisely chosen not to call it, and I had to be very careful saying that, is going to be called Thor: Love and Thunder, and is going to be again, it's Taika Waititi is the New Zealand director who did Thor Ragnarok and also does the voice of Korg in Thor Ragnarok and in Endgame. He's a brilliant creator. If you haven't seen the movie that he did a few years ago about vampires in New Zealand called What We Do in the Shadows, it is good. It's so good.
So good. He has another comedy coming out soon.
It's so good.
Yeah, so for Love and Thunder, they announced the big announcement, which has driven all the crazy comic book spec people.
It has.
Jane Foster.
Yes, Jane Foster. Now, Jane Foster. Yes, Jane Foster, the long-time female. I don't read Thor. Love interest, is that fair to say?
No, she is awesome. She is her own character. She had a great book line. She's a great...
No, as in originally in Thor, that's what she was back in the 60s and, when she was introduced. She's grown as a character.
So, for sure. Yeah, and I think this has been like... And maybe it's love interest. I don't remember.
I can't remember. I don't read Thor, so I may have done her a huge disservice and been really unintentionally misogynistic. So I apologize.
No, I mean, it's not you being misogynistic. It's the industry.
Well, it was the 60s when all these characters were created and written, so it was a different time with different cultural sensibilities, and rightly or wrongly for whatever reason. But she is she in comics eventually wielded Molyneux, his hammer.
Nailed it.
Wielded his hammer for nah. And you might have to edit that bit out. Yeah. Still quite funny though. I'm proud of that.
Very fun. No, it's good. I mean, it works.
She became Thor in the comics a few years ago. And that I believe Natalie Portman's character of Jane Foster.
Foster,
yes, it was in the first two Thor movies, and is returning to the franchise to play Thor. So whatever the storyline mechanism, Chris Hemsworth will be in there as well, as will Tessa Thompson playing Valkyrie, who was introduced in Thor Ragnarok, and who went further to kick butt in the Avengers Endgame movie. She was brilliant. She wasn't in it much, but she was wonderful to watch. And so she's going to come through. So obviously the price of I saw some guy earlier on today list 5 issues of the Thor series where Jane Foster had taken over as Thor, issue 1, for £40 each on the group. And the poster's now gone because everyone just kind of ripped him. And it was taken down because he was basically taking advantage. Having said that, I didn't have What If issue 10, which from 1979, I think, 1980, which is volume 1 of What If. And What If itself was announced as an MCU,
which is pretty cool
thing, which is going to be animated with Jeffrey Wright as the voice of the Watcher.
Yeah. Oh, God. And then all the actors are coming back for the voiceovers.
Exactly. Which is a
I'm
really cost-effective way of doing it.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be like the DC shorts that came out a while ago. I know if you saw them, they were really good. Spectre, Catwoman, Batwoman, they were just like little movie shorts.
Oh, cool.
They were done really professionally. So I'm thinking that's what the What If is going to be like.
Yeah.
Kind of like the HBO cartoons back in the day where they were like really interesting, really high end.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping it's that kind of style, that kind of fun. Like we're watching these little segments of these movies being kind of broken down as these what if scenarios. So I'm hoping that's what they're alluding to with that series, like kind of like a more high end kind of animation shorts. You know what I mean? That'd be kind of cool to see them pull that off.
Awesome.
But yeah, the What If, I know everyone's speculating about her being that first appearance. I've been hearing back and forth where people are like, no, that's not the first appearance technically.
Well, no, it isn't.
They're right, because it's not Jane Foster.
However, I didn't own it. I now own 2 copies because yesterday when I was out and about.
I didn't own it, but I own 2 copies now.
Well, no, I'd want one because it's missing in my thought. This is the annoying thing for me. I'm not one of these people who buys books to flip.
No,
I just don't do it because generally I don't flip anything very well, and I kind of I'm always a bit uneasy about it. But I figured, look, it's there, so I saw 2 copies in there, and I found there was kind of an antiques kind of treasure trove, and it's one of these buildings that's an old building. It's got different antique dealers who deal with different things, and there was one guy who had a load of comic books, and I'd never been in there before, and I found all this stuff, and he's got other issues I'm going to go back and get that I just need for my personal collection.
That's
and
really
I'd
cool.
rather pay £6 than £60.
Smart.
Now, having said that, I'd say the copies are probably mid to high grade. One of them slightly better than the other.
Wow.
But if there was an occasion to trade that with someone, then I would do it. I'm in 2 minds. Do I list it on eBay? Do I become that guy? Or do I just keep it and help out a mate? I'm kind of thinking I'll help it and keep it and help out a mate. But the capitalist among us are screaming, "Are you mad? Why wouldn't you make a buck off it?" And I know a lot of people wouldn't give this a second thought.
I think it's hard. It's hard to be that kind of. Look, I've definitely been both. I've definitely been both. I can be honest. Like, here's the thing. Here's the line that I always draw, especially in cards. If I know someone's a specific character collector, I go to them first. I don't go to the person who can pay me double.
Yeah.
I go to I don't, because I know what it is to be a person who, God, we all get burned here and there. There's things that I've wanted that were surfer that people knew, yet still took cards, whatever it may be. And, I always try to be the collector who is going to get something to the right place, but everyone has different likes. Some people want to collect everything. Some people want to collect a few things.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where I draw the line. I don't know.
So the part of me that has a soul and kind of keeps me up at night, says, well, you've just denied someone else of owning that in their collection at an affordable price. But alternatively, the guy who saw that after me could have gone on eBay and got 90 quid for it. So it's like, what do you do? Anyway, I got the 2 copies. I'll definitely part with one of them. I'll probably try and send it the way of someone I know who'd be into it, and maybe do a kind of trade thing. Who knows?
Who knows? Leave yourself open to it.
Yeah, exactly.
You get the price in your head that you want. It's a price that's fair. If the person who wants it has the fair price, then that's fair.
Yeah, exactly. So hey, anyway, we'll talk about. I think I think we'll probably talk about all the other Phase 4 stuff on another episode, because otherwise this will be a 3-hour job.
Sorry.
But I find it really interesting how this is going to happen and what those announcements will mean in terms of the card sets over the next few years.
I'm excited. I wonder.
Because the one thing we haven't really touched on at all on any of these, we're about 10 episodes in coming up. We haven't talked about any of the movie-related sets. Now, we haven't. Not that we haven't chosen to not talk about them. It's just that they're not the first thing that comes to my mind when we're talking about stuff, because I don't collect it. However,
I'm not an expert either, but we need
there's a lot of guys that collect them.
Yeah,
there's a lot of guys that
cool
go nuts.
Stuff in those sets too. I mean, you have autographs, you have film cell inserts, you have really, really cool and high-end things. And sketch cards. I mean, a lot of them have their own sketch cards too. So, I mean, it's quite a valuable set.
Exactly. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about lots of other stuff. There's, the good thing about this is that there's so much for us to talk about, which means that hopefully you guys want to do it and keep listening. We really enjoy doing it. For years I wanted to start a podcast, and I kind of didn't really have a clue how to start, really. And then we were just chatting, and we thought, let's just I mentioned to you 6 months ago when we were talking about how the groups were growing and what we do, that let's start a podcast. And you were like, yes, straight in. And it took a few months for us to kind of circle to the point where I was like, you know what, let's just actually do it.
Let's just dive in, forget it. There's so much preparation. Ian really is the brainchild of all this and has done so much work into getting this up off the ground and moving it. And now we have people who listen in. Now we have people who are interested. I mean, this is really, really taken off. It's really, really amazing.
Teamwork makes the dream work, buddy. That's what it's all about. We've got some exciting ideas about where we want to go with this. It is 100% fan related. We talk about. Are you still there? Can you still hear me?
Yeah, your image is frozen, but I hear you.
Yeah, that's good. That's why I was just checking. We talk about stuff we want to do. We talk about a licensed thing in a fan way. So we have to be mindful of the fact that we don't want to try and profit off it or monetize it in any way, which is why we could have sponsored adverts on this podcast if we wanted to. It's actually been offered, but we're not into doing that. So it's just not our vibe, and we do spend time and money doing this. We have got an idea for a t-shirt that would support the entire Marvel Cards fan collective. I'm going to talk about that now. We do not want to sell those in a way that will make profits, however, because we are riffing on another IP. And we'll be hit with a cease and desist faster than you can say Mjolnir Force Hammer or whatever the word is. Did I nail it that time?
I think you did.
Yeah. Anyway, so we've got a design and we've got an idea for how it can work. And I kind of want to do it in a way that literally just covers the cost of that and nothing else, so that folk can wear it if they want to when they go to cons, so that artists can wear it when they go to cons, so that you can just wear it when you're, going to your Magic the Gathering thing at the store. Because people do that, or go, or whatever, or in bed with your loved one, if that floats your boat. Yeah. So, and if you want to,
for me,
listen, if you want to get a tattoo of the group logo, you're more than welcome to do so. I mean, this is where I was going to say, this is where I pull up my thing to reveal something.
I took it from you.
Yeah, never mind. You go with it. Is it healing?
It's healing. Okay. It's not great.
Good.
I did it myself.
Oh. I think that might be the end of the episode.
There you go. Look at that. Done.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy collecting. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast. You can subscribe via our home on anchor.fm/MCCP. Leave us a message via that link with questions, comments, or just to say hi, and we may even play on the show. We'll also be on iTunes and most other main podcast platforms soon. On Facebook, you can find Marvel Card Collectors Worldwide by searching MCCW, and Marvel Masterpieces Collectors by searching MMC. On Instagram, find us at MMCollectors and at SketchCardHive. The great music we use is called Rocket Power by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks to the collectors, artists, and creators who support the Marvel Cards fan collective. We'll see you next time, and remember, it's a small hobby, but a fun one. Make mine Marvel, and enjoy collecting.